Good morning. Chris Cordani here. This is Wake Up Patriots, filling in for Tony Shaffer today. We do have a lot to talk about, and with me is cousin Vinny. We're going to be talking to. Welcome, Vinny. Thanks for filling in.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Chris.
It is a morning of goodness. I need you to talk for one moment because I have to pull back for a second. Just make sure I have the guest coming in pretty soon. They need a link. But here's the idea: we're going to be talking to a radio host, Bill Walton, who is here's what's going on, Benny. President
Okay.
Xi Jinping was not at the latest BRICS conference. The man is always at these things. It's important for him. He has to be there. He's the president. He has not been around in a while. He has not been visible. There's a big military purge going on. We're going to find out why. What are you thinking here, Vinny?
Everything's going crazy right now. I mean, with Ping and this and that and the Russians, it's getting out of hand. I mean, something has to be done. I don't want people to die and stuff. It's crazy.
No, we don't. We're going to be talking to Bill about that in just about 25 minutes. Good morning, Patriots. There is a lot to discuss first, and we're going to go to the sad story right now. It's horrible what happened in Texas, the flash floods. These are children who are dying. And, well, out of the many, I believe the death count went to 82 last I checked, and I'm sure it could rise, but many of them were children.
Yes.
Now, what's happening? What happened? What happened is there's a little bit going on. There's a big to-do from the Democrats who are looking for some kind of crisis to pounce upon. And why not? The deaths of innocent people and children are perfect for them because they're trying to tell us that that Donald Trump's budget cuts were the reason that the prediction of how much rain was going to fall, how many inches, how hard it was going to be, and the flash floods. The prediction was not should have been a little better. Weather predictions. Have you ever been? You've seen a weatherman, right? Noah, put Noah aside right now because that's part of the whole thing. Weathermen, the people you see on television, they're the meteorologists. They aren't right half the time anyway. I might be exaggerating. Right. But Noah can only go by what they see. It's very difficult to predict how heavy. Again, it's very predictable. It's very hard to predict a freak happening like what happened in Texas. But the liberals, the left is trying, the Democrats are trying as hard as they can to blame this on Donald Trump, Vinny.
I know they're trying to blame everything. And then there was I saw an article. Saw an article that this African American girl was really pissed and saying, something about black people, this and that, and she got fired or something like that for mouthing off to and posting something like that about the kids that died in Texas. I mean, why would you be so stupid to say stuff like that when there's children that died?
Well, again, that's what they do. They take a tragedy and they'll take political advantage of it. That's number one. But the rank and file lefties are emboldened to the point where they think they can say so many horrible things about the deaths of innocent children that they think they can get away with it because, hey, you can censor the right, but you can't censor the left, and they get all in some kind of hissy fit when you call them out over it. Let me get this. I have a little chart that was put out there, Vinny. If you want to check that out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What's going on? And again, this is a small sample of what these people have done over the past year. I'm going to take care of that right now. Get this up here. I'm sure some of you have seen this floating around here. This is a bunch of this is a small sample of liberals on X who are yammering on, going, "Rut-row, Texas, what you gonna do?" Calling it karma. This one, Juca over here on the upper right. Texas deserved every flood God has spoken, and it hates Texas. The people in Texas voted for government services controlled by Donald Trump and Greg Abbott. This is exactly what they're getting. So basically, it's their fault. It's their fault that this flash flood happened. That's what they're trying to tell us. And they think that these poor kids, children who died, deserve it. I had one ex-high school classmate call it karma. but I guess you can tell by the soy face picture that he has in his profile. Things.
But it's crazy. Like I don't understand what these Democrats said. They must hate America because everything they say is negative out of their mouth.
Right.
They don't want a better life. They don't want nothing. Everything is this that. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I have friends that I'm trying to understand. Like, uh, don't you want a better life? Don't you want to pay less taxes? Don't you want to do this? Don't you want to do that? And they still hate Donald Trump. I don't get it.
They hate Donald Trump, and I'm going to tell you this. This is my theory, and I want to know what the Patriots think about this. What do you think about this theory about Donald Trump? The idea is Donald Trump represents a lot of things the left hates: success, coming back from adversity instead of whining about it and crying and playing the victim, and doing that quite a few times, by the way. He represents the what many would call the American dream. He also represents that boss. You know how when you're at a workplace and it's in disarray, and these people, the people, your coworkers are all hanging out the water cooler, taking cigarette breaks every 30 minutes, barely doing the bare minimum every day while you're working your rear end off trying to keep things going. Then the new boss comes in and gets on everybody's case about, hey, you got to get back to work, shape up or ship out, or that's it. It's all done. He's that guy. He's that boss that tells these liberal, these whiny, lazy people, hey, you got to get moving or else you're not going to work here anymore. And that's something these people on the left dislike. It's not even just about the party that they're against. It's about the fact that Donald Trump represents the things they hate. What are your thoughts, Patriots? How about you, Vinny?
Well, here's something that was blowing my mind. AOC was um, being interviewed by, of course, the fake news, and saying because of Trump's new bill, beautiful bill, that people are going to lose their medical, people are going to lose their SNAP, people are going to lose this. Listen, it's only supposed to be for a limited time, not your whole life. Like Section 8. You're on Section 8 for a couple of years to get yourself situated, get some money in the bank, do what you got to do. But people on Section 8, they pass it down to their grandkids, to the other kids, and they keep going. And they don't care that the taxpayers are paying for it. I don't get it.
Well, here's the idea. A good, and this is where people get things wrong. A lot of these liberals are going to say, "Oh, the right wants to take away all of your benefits. They want to take away." That's a scare tactic. The fact is, any good capitalist society knows that there is going to be some level of unemployment, and that's going to be very unfortunate. The idea is we need a safety net that we can all pay into and invest in, and make sure when something goes wrong for a large percent or a percentage of people, especially when there's a recession, that there's something to fall back on for a little while. Then
But
hopefully they can come back, whether it be retraining and help them come back, or some kind of job market, or wait till the market comes back. If they're willing to work and they're trying as hard as they can to do so, then we'll help them until such a time comes where their business booms or they find a new job. And that's a good thing. Heck, I believe that's a very important. Anybody could be in that position, Vinny. But the fact is, some people treat it as an entitlement. There are people who didn't bother going back to work after when states opened up post COVID because they like the idea of getting all that money for doing nothing.
yeah, that's true. They want freebies
Right. Now,
all the time.
so a system like this, where we have a proper safety net and a helpful safety net for people, does tend to get abused. And at this point, it's not only abused by the welfare queens. I remember some of these stories back in the 90s where people's dogs were receiving welfare. This one woman had 77 checks come in. This is a big deal. But the politicians use it. And that's the idea. They use it as a political uh, football, if you will, to make sure, hey, we'll use this to scare people. We'll use, hey, the Republicans are going to take away your benefits. When a politician says, hey, Vinny, isn't it reasonable to say illegal aliens should not get benefits met for Americans? But then,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
nope, then Vinny says yes. And then the liberals say, oh, Vinny said that you should cut all sorts of services. He wants to get rid of all SNAP. He wants to get rid of unemployment. He wants to get rid of Social Security. No, you just said people who don't deserve it, illegals, people who didn't pay into the system, and able-bodied people who can work don't need it.
You're right. You're right. I mean, there's people. I mean, like, is it right that the illegals came here, jumped over the wall, and they're getting checks, and they're getting scooters, and they're getting a place to live, and everything. And meanwhile, the American people are getting squat. They're getting nothing.
No, that's right. Again,
That's crazy.
yeah, and back to what happened here, Vinny, with this whole amazing tragedy. What's happening in Texas is the left is using this, and I'm going to take these people off and put these people take this off and put something a little different on here. The left is using this to blame Donald Trump and, of course, to blame the usual suspect, climate change. Freak weather incidents have happened for centuries, for millennia, if you will, for eons, mind you. But they just want to keep blaming everything on climate change to push a social agenda. I'm going to ask you a question. Isn't carbon good for plants?
Yes.
Right.
I think. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Carbon is good for plants. And you think about it. Now, I understand, again, when we say something like this, the left is going to come out and try to scare other people by saying, oh, people on the right, that Vinny and Chris and Tony, they're telling people that we should litter and flood the earth with toxins. No, we are obligated as people to become good stewards of the earth, try to find clean energy sources, do the right thing. But we also should not be falling prey to those who are trying to line their pockets by telling you that they want energy or they want policy to go a certain way, or else it's climate change and you people are horrible and you're destroying the earth. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's a low mentality, Vinny. But I want to say that our prayers should go right out to the people over in Texas, the families, those who are missing loved ones. There are people still missing out there. And let's hope. And I want to see what happens in the next 2 to 5 days. We were criticizing the Biden FEMA for their tinkle poor response, if you will. I can't say the other word, but their tinkle poor response to several tragedies. We can talk about what happened in Texas. We can talk about what happened in North Carolina. We can talk about what happened in East Palestine, Ohio. Right now, this is a big test for the Trump administration's FEMA. This is a big test for them to say, hey, we're going to go out there. We're the organized people. We cut out the fat. Now here's how we respond. What are your thoughts?
Well, FEMA was, they're supposed to help people, but if they know that you're a Trump supporter, they don't want to help you. That's not making sense to me. You're supposed to help everybody, no matter what.
Well, that was some of the ground level people in North Carolina. I remember that. It sounds like it was a conspiracy theory, but there were witnesses attesting to this. And this is something that we had. This is why, by the way, you cut people out of government jobs, because they are basically moles or lazy do-nothings. And they're going to wait 4 years. So hopefully, well, they hope a Democrat comes in and brings things back to their norm. But let's just go this way. The idea is this is a big test for the Trump administration. Donald Trump, is going to be down there very soon. He's going to do what he did.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to do what he did when he was president. He's going to survey the situation. He is going to give orders, and he's going to make sure the job gets done. If the FEMA director, if FEMA does not get the job done, I'm pretty sure the FEMA director is going to be out on his ass, and there's going to be more of an argument for states to take things over. And you're going to see such a disparity when states take disasters over. When, let's say, the way Texas, North Carolina, and let's say Georgia might run things a little better than places like California. And California couldn't handle their disasters either very recently, could they?
No, they can't. I mean, come on. People want to, stop building, stop doing this, stop doing that. but the people, the governor and who's in charge, they want to build like smart city. They want to like control the people. They don't want people to have a normal life. They want to control the people, and that's what people are not understanding.
Oh, again, you're right. It's about control. Let's go into something else here, Vinny, because this is a tragic story. We'll keep an eye out for breaking news if that happens during the hour. But have you been reading the left, the press playing defense for this Zoran Mamdani character? Have you been?
Well, I really don't think we should have a socialist, as a mayor because he wants free this, free that. He just it's not going to work. It's going to be a disaster.
Well, we've seen what happened in Los Angeles. We've seen what happened in Chicago if socialists are elected. But this guy is a flat out communist. Still, the fact checkers are out there. And by the way, Vinny, that you're onto something when the fact checkers fall in line and say, nah, he ain't nothing like that. No, you're saying the wrong thing. So basically, PolitiFact has been known to lie several times, is trying to convince us that New York City mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani is not a communist. So they give it a big false in their truthometer, which, by the way, they've been fact checked several times by the correct people. Anyway, here's the idea. The claim is we're going to go into this article because it's really suspect here, and believe me, we heard from this man's mouth that he's a communist. The man has supported communism. He raised his fist for communism. He says socialism is the way to go. So basically, what PolitiFact is trying to tell us is Zoran Mamdani, after soaring to the lead, he describes himself as a Democrat socialist. But some politicians and social media posts falsely labeled him a communist. Now, here's the key. Democrat socialists, they are basically the far left wacko wing of the Democrat Party. They've had it there for a long time. There was a Democrat Socialist Caucus until the Democrats and the media changed that term to progressive. They're not progressive, they're regressive. So the idea is we all know that they're communists, but the media is trying to tell you not to equate them as communists. So here you go. President Donald Trump, Vinny, called him 100% communist lunatic. While cousin Vinny says, no, he's a 200% communist lunatic.
Who? I don't want that guy. I mean, I don't live in New York anymore, but I feel bad if that guy gets elected. It's going to be a disaster for New York City.
Yeah.
It's going to be a total disaster. I mean, just look at Hoopla. She not listening. I think she did. What she did? A couple $1 million to get to the illegals or something just recently. She did.
I agree. And here's something else. I just want to get to this a little more, Vinny, because I want to get your thoughts on this whole thing. This is PolitiFact's argument. Get this, that Zoran Mamdani is not a communist. I'm going to read it to you. Patriots, what do you think of this? Let's get a laugh here. PolitiFact is saying Mamdani's platform calls for making transportation, housing, and groceries more affordable, but experts say he hasn't espoused key tenets of communism, such as government takeover of industry and private property. I'm sorry. He said he wants cities to control the grocery stores. He wants cities to own and control grocery stores. That, my friend, is in fact government takeover of industry and private property.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Mamdani is not a communist, says Anna Gramilla Bossi of Stanford University. She's a professor of international studies. Yeah, okay. She says communism involves a centrally planned economy with no market forces. Prices and quantities are set by a central government, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the man said his ultimate goal is to control the means of production. That, my friends, is communism. When I say control the means of production, that doesn't just mean factories, and that's still bad. It means farming, agriculture. It in New York City who's trying to get a job done or a contract in to make ends meet. And it means the bodega owner is going to be put out of business by the government-owned and price-controlled uh, of, of, of government-run stores. That's what's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to work. I definitely don't think it's going to work. Where, people own the business. They don't want that business taken away and controlled by people. It's theirs. They own it. Why would you let somebody else control your business?
Exactly.
That don't make sense. That's crazy.
But this man. Okay, here's another thing. They're trying to argue that Mandami's platform calls for some city-owned grocery stores, and they're calling it affordability policies. But the fact is, city-owned grocery stores are all, in fact, socialism, which the end result is always communism. And people don't realize socialism is communism, or it's very close. It's close enough to it where it just happens, or that's the end result. But here we go. He identifies as what's called a democratic socialist. And every Democrat will tell you, if they lean that far to the left, no, it's not the same as socialism. They never did it right. Yeah, every socialist, every communist did it right. And every socialist and communist government needed total forced compliance by the electorate, because no one's going to do it via free will, except maybe.
I hope that the person that I think should be the mayor is Curtis Lever, because he's really fighting for New Yorkers. He's trying to help people. I mean, I watch his videos. He's doing more than Adams did. He did more than anybody. I mean, he's out there with the people, trying to make things better. He's protesting the right way. He's not out there protesting, burning down things, breaking things, smashing windows. He's doing it the right way. He's trying to get people to understand what's really going on.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you, Vinny, in a lot of ways. But Curtis Lewa did not fare well in the last election. He will probably get 33% of the vote, maybe 30 or something like that in this vote, because Republicans do not back their candidates. It's going to take Republican money to push Curtis Lewa, and I kind of doubt it's going to happen. And one thing people have to realize is Curtis was at one point a never Trumper. I'm not sure where he is now, but he was a never Trumper at one point. So that's going to turn off some people as well, and even some New York City Trump Democrats will probably be turned off. The best hope is that he stays in the race, and Mamdani stays in the race. But with that, Adams sneaks out there, or maybe Curtis drops out, backs up Mayor Adams, and that could happen. Right now, Mamdani has a double-digit poll lead in the latest Gotham poll, but that's a little skewed too to people who aren't working. So let's just put it that way. They're probably, or anybody who they called and didn't answer were probably on the job or doing something different. They don't really care to answer stupid polling questions. They take too long. Let's go to the Patriots here about this, though, Vinny. Merriman 330. First off, Universal 223, you're right. If Mamdani is elected, the New York City tax base, or at least the vast majority of it, will be gone. And that, my friends, will solve the congestion in lower Manhattan, so they can just get rid of congestion pricing. I wouldn't mind that. There you go. Merriman 330, Vinny, says our biggest concern should be that the public takes the Democrat media at their word, no matter if they flip-flop their narrative. And that's true too. It's a lot of young people, a lot of people in the boomer age, in the Generation X age, the millennial age, and the Gen Z ages, they were all taught to believe the news media was trustworthy. Now, many of us have wised up to it as we saw the lies. A lot of people wised up to it after the fake memo incident with Dan Rather. But there's still a load of people in this country who believe everything the media tells them because they don't care to know any better. What do you think, Vinny?
Well, I think people really need to stop listening to the news and do their own research and find out what's really happening. You listen to this news channel, CNN. They're always against Trump. They're always against this. They're always negative. Everything is negative, and they don't tell the truth.
It's true, but the funny thing is, even the news media takes Democrats at their word all the time, and that's another thing. They cover for each other. I read to you what PolitiFact did with Zoran Mamdani. They're lying to protect him. They're trying to tell you, no, he's not a communist. No, Bernie Sanders is not really a socialist. They're democratic socialists. That means they're really Democrats. No, it means they're really socialists. You had, and again, I will say this. I've said this a million times. If I'm boring you, Patriots, on this, the presidential debate, they were talking about what was going on in Springfield. What was Ohio? I guess it was, where with the Haitian immigrants. David Muir actually had the gall to tell both candidates, well, Mr. President Trump, well, I called the city manager of Springfield, and the city manager told me nothing was going on. So that's the case. They didn't even bother investigating on their own. They took a Democrat politician at his word without checking on it. That is what the news media does and has been doing for decades.
They do it all the time. I guess the fake news just wants to put out what they feel is right. Meanwhile, it's not right. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy, and I don't know.
Well, see, I left Vinny speechless. I think that's actually the first time that's ever happened, huh?
Yeah, because I'm dumbfounded. I mean, I can't understand why would people vote for a socialist or vote for a person bad mouthing America, bad mouthing this. Why would you vote for people like that? I don't get people.
Well, first off, Patum 7126 says not many Republicans in New York City. And the fact is, people that work for their money and don't want to be overtaxed have left New York City a long time ago, unless they are super rich and can afford it and live up on the high rises away from the crime, or live in the nice neighborhoods, that sort of thing. So that's what's happening right now. We're waiting for our guest, and I believe he's having a little trouble getting in, so I'm going to work on that while we're talking as well. But think about that. Republicans, many people who work for a living, who haven't fallen or succumbed to this this new mentality, this kind of low mentality of, well, let's get free buses. Doesn't matter who's going to have to pay for it, or government should control the means of production. That's a great thing. Again, a lot of down and outers, and a lot of people who or radical types have fallen for communism for decades, or it's over a century now. But keep in mind, almost every one of these leaders, these communist leaders, were spoiled rich or got rich preaching socialism. Name one that hasn't. Vinny, can you? Patriots, can you? Karl Marx himself lived in his mommy's basement, didn't he? And I'm sure they saved a lot of money on. Yeah, I'm sure they saved a lot of money on water and soap with him too. By the way, that's how they stayed rich. Think about it. Challenge you. Give me a socialist who's prominent, who either was not rich, who either was not rich. Excuse me, who either is not rich or did not start out spoiled and rich. There we go. And of course, yes, and it was a good point, Lupek. Yes, there are fake mail-in voters. I can't prove that they did in some places, but we're going to see a lot more things happening. As a matter of fact, Dr. Corsi is working very hard. Dr. Corsi is working very hard on something with Act Blue. Act Blue is going to be in big trouble very soon. There are major investigations going on with this group. They, like USAID in a lot of ways, were laundering money instead of to Democrat causes, more to Democrat candidates and causes, and illegally. So how about that? There you go. See, I'm leaving Vinny speechless again.
I just don't get it. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm getting lost for words because I don't understand people. I mean, it's crazy.
It's absolutely crazy. But again, Here's what happens when you say people should do their own research. There is a caveat to that, and the one caveat to that is people go online, they do their research, and the first thing you do is hit Google, right? So you start like
Yeah.
Google Zora Mandami communist. One of the first things you see is PolitiFact saying, and this is what I did today. One of the first things I saw was PolitiFact saying, no, Zora Mandami is not a communist. And they're going to, and that's the first thing you say. People are going to realize, well, it's a fact checker. We're told that fact checkers check facts, which means that they're telling the truth. So therefore, Mandami is not a communist. And they don't even go past that. Right?
First of all, you shouldn't believe fact checkers because they're all BS. That's totally BS. You should do your own research. Check, go on the internet, look around for different websites, and find out for yourself. Don't listen to a fact checker. Don't listen to the fake news because it's not true. It's not true.
Well, there you go. It's definitely not true. Well, we're going to be talking about in a little bit with Bill Walton. It's going to be very interesting as well. We're going to be talking to him about a recent issue with Xi Jinping. What's happening is he has not been seen anywhere. He is kind of gone. He's disappeared. And I'll understand maybe he might have been sick or anything else like that, or maybe he just wanted to take a little respite. But when he didn't show up at the latest BRICS meeting, that set off some serious alarm bells. We're going to find out what is going on behind the scenes in China. Does the CCP think he's doing the job? Have they moved him aside as they purge the military? A lot of things happening. We're going to be talking about that with Walton as soon as he chimes in a little while. But here we're discussing. Here's another thing. I got something for you on the home front before we talk about Xi Jinping. Joe Biden, this is from Zero Hedge. I want to read this to you. Joe Biden claims get this, all right? This is hilarious. Joe Biden is telling us he's actually yammering on about this or yammering on incoherently about how world leaders have been calling him and saying, we want you back. Donald Trump's been erasing all your accomplishments. This is horrible. And the fact is, yes, Donald Trump has been erasing Joe Biden's destructive policies. The European, the NATO alliance does not like that because most of it's the Western European Union. These are the people who have succumbed to woke ideology, have destroyed their countries through civ immigration. These are the same people who have destroyed their countries through civ immigration. They have destroyed their economies. They're dependent on Russian oil. They're dependent on they don't even care to work with Donald Trump because he doesn't subscribe to their woke ideologies that are, by the way, failing. They have tried to suppress opposition. Some have been thrown in jail or arrested. Jail, which is Gorgescu, of course, in Romania, arrested like Marine Le Pen. The Germany's trying to get rid of an opposition party because of its stance on immigration. You're not allowed to say anything, but Joe Biden is claiming that leaders want him back, or clamoring for him, or want him to come back. I have a problem there with this article, not so much as Joe Biden making these claims because he wants to pat himself on the back, Benny. But where he was speaking bothered me. I want to read between. You know when he was supposed to give a keynote speech then? At the Society for Human Resource Management.
Biden is supposed to give. He doesn't even know which way he's going.
Well, I just want to get this. Joe Biden, a leftist, a wokey, who push woke ideology, had and of course racial preferences in hiring, was speaking at a very important human resources convention with human resources professionals. This is the mentality of the people. I mean, I'm going to submit to you. This is the mentality of the people who are still making decisions on who gets hired and fired in certain areas, whether it be private or public sector. And that's a mentality that needs to be cleaned out of human resources. Because the wrong people are going to be getting jobs in so many places because these people are going to say, well, you're a conservative. They're going to go through your social media. Oh, you said this online once. I'm not going to hire you. We hate you. This is their mentality.
Well, their mentality is kind of stupid. Put it that way. I mean, you hire somebody that knows how to do the job. Don't hire somebody because of their color or this or that. If they know how to do their job and they're very high qualified, hire that person. Don't put these people in charge of something because you want to put your people here, you want to put your people there. Meanwhile, they're screwing up everything.
I agree with you there. Now, we're still trying to work with getting our guest, Bill Walton, in. I do want to get into that as well. And here he is. All right. That sounds great. Bill, welcome to the program.
Okay.
Welcome
hold
to
on a second.
Here we go. Well, we're going to get Bill on in just a few minutes here.
Oh, we lost him.
I'll get him back on. Let's give him a proper intro. We talked about this a while ago, and I'm going to tell you this right now. I tried my best to get a picture, to set up a picture. I'm going to tell him when Bill Walton's here. But first off, Xi Jinping, the president, the leader, if you will, of the Chinese Communist Party, is one of the most visible men in that country. He is the face of that government. He's the face of the oppression, the human rights violations, and of course, the money laundering and the money manipulation. He is the man who sits with Donald Trump, makes phone calls with him, that sort of thing, and is trying to get the tariffs done. We haven't seen him in a long time. I mean, the guy's waving everywhere. The big alarm was set here when he didn't show up for the latest BRICS meeting. And believe me, he's one of the engineers of BRICS. His party is as well. Question is why? There's a big military purge going on. And Bill Walton, great talk show host, by the way. Not the coach, right? Just kidding. Great talk show host. He's here with us to talk about it. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I wish I were the basketball coach. That's a fun job when you win.
That's true. I'll tell you what, though, it's great to have you here, and I'm sitting in for Tony Shaffer as the lead here, and of course, Cousin Vinny's sitting in for me. So we're Bill today.
Hi, Vinny.
So it's been a big game of where's Waldo or where's Winnie, should I say, right?
Right. Where's Xi?
Where's Winnie?
Where's Ping?
Well, are we in China? Or are we in?
But again, sometimes communist leaders disappear. It's a fact of life. They're away. Sometimes they're just put aside for a little bit, maybe benched for a while. But a lot of the times, these same people are still trotted out as a face for major meetings. We're talking about a nation that's just had a major military purge. So you're talking about behind the scenes, a major leadership purge overall. And now we see that Xi Jinping, the face of the country, was not at the recent BRICS meeting. This is where he's always there. He was at every one of them before this, if I'm correct. What do you think's going on, Bill?
Well, it's opaque. You remember back in the bad old days with Russia and communist Russia, Soviet Union, and we'd look at pictures of the Politburo every time they trotted everybody out, and everybody would look at the picture to see who was in and any new faces. And that's, China doesn't even give us that. So, and they've got a 24-member Politburo of which Xi is, he is the dominant guy. And what we know is not a lot, but there's a lot of atmospherics, and the atmospherics is that there have been changes in a lot of the personnel. I won't say a lot, some personnel. And at the Politburo meeting this month, there are 24 members. One of them has been mysteriously disappeared. I think he's the top general since March, and that's as far as we know, that seat hadn't been replaced. But the thing about Xi is that he is, his father was a massively important communist functionary under Mao, and he adores his father, and he learned from his father. Of course, his father was purged for about 25 years before he was brought back into Mao's orbit, but that didn't seem to deter Xi. He's a seriously dedicated communist and studied the Soviet Union and felt like the Soviet leaders didn't do a good enough job purging people around them to hold power. Although, that certainly wasn't true of Stalin, but later on it was. Anyway, so he's there. We think he's still firmly in charge. But the thing to keep in mind is that nature takes its course. Xi is 72 years old. There have been a lot of reported issues but not determined with aneurysms and strokes and things like that. And he's 17 years old and he is a heavy smoker. So, that's something to keep your eye on. He may disappear himself just because of that. So anyway, that's what we know. And there's a lot more, and there's a lot more going on in the Chinese economy and society and their introduction of robots to replace people. A lot going on there.
You bring up a great point here that, again, we can talk about and speculate all we want here, but that sometimes the most obvious solution is the right one. And you're saying it right here. The idea is that maybe Xi's health is not as well as it should be. The Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party, needs to make sure that he's not seen as weak, make sure that he's not seen as infirmed or seen as, let's just say, Joe Biden Far East version, if you will. No, look, the whole world laughed at that guy for years. China does not want that. They don't want to be known as the guy with a doddering old fool as president. We were the guys that way.
Well, they dye their hair in China. The leaders don't want to be seen with gray hair. And I haven't looked at any recent pictures of him. I think he's still doing that. They want to project. Remember when Mao jumped in the river and swam when he was, practically dead, and to prove that he was not dead? Well, that's the mentality they've got.
Well, and again, here's something funny too. I was hoping to create a nice, really cool picture on ChatGTP for you. This is relevant to the discussion here. I was going to have a picture of. I was trying to get them to create a photo or a merged photo of Xi Jinping with "Where's Waldo." You see, that's important here. That works. ChatGPT would not do that.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
They wouldn't even let me do Winnie the Pooh, by the way. But the fact is, there is a serious issue when it comes to our technology, our big tech sector here, and the Chinese Communist Party. They have inroads in everywhere. So I just want to give you a side note there. I find that interesting as well.
Well, I argue with ChatGPT all the time. It won't give me answers I want, particularly with economics. And I say, look, don't stop giving me the Berkeley version of economics. How about the Austrian school? And you know what? It comes back and says, yeah, you're right. There's bias in my analysis, and here's another way to look at it. So sometimes you win an argument with those things.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I should ask them. Them.
I'm a geek.
Right, I'm with you.
I don't do that. I haven't tried that AI stuff yet. I haven't tried it yet.
Well,
I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun once you get into the talking back and forth to it.
Well, here's a question I'll ask ChatGTP, and I'll ask you guys too. Who's worse? The 2025 Colorado Rockies, the 2024 Chicago White Sox, the 1962 Mets, or the 1899 Cleveland Spiders? I think the four worst teams I can think of are off the top of my head.
I've got to go with the Mets. I lived for a long time in New York. They were only because of Casey Stengel. He made them even more colorful as a loser.
Oh yeah. Ron Hunt told me the story about how he was actually he got his chance to play. He was, I believe, was 63. It was like the fourth second baseman, but he was on the bench at this point. Fourth when they tried that year. Finally, when it was his time, Casey looks at him and says, "Hey, 33, you ready to play?" He goes, "Yep." Gets him out there. Ron Hunt was great. That was the year I think he was hit by pitch 50 times. If not, that was the next year. Ron Hunt's amazing. We gotta get him on. That guy's cool. But anyway, let's go back to the serious stuff. Although I will say this about the Spiders. I said this before on this program. The St. Louis Cardinals owners bought the Cleveland team. They took all the good players from Cleveland, put them on St. Louis, changed the name to the Perfectos, and gave all the scraps to Cleveland. That's how Cleveland wound up 20 and 134 that year in 1899. And no matter how good they thought the perfectos were, I think they finished third. But anyway,
Great name.
but look, but again, this happens. Your theory could be right. I mean, what you said could be right, but there are also other things we can look at as well. The Chinese Communist Party may be in the midst of a leadership change overall. We saw a huge military purge. That doesn't normally happen with a country that does not like to show weakness either.
Well, the thing about China is that they've got massive problems. I mean, we're hearing about their progress with DeepSeek and AI, and it all sounds very formidable and threatening, and parts of that is and could be, but they've got a massive real estate problem. They overinvested in real estate, both commercial and residential, and that's been in a deep depression for the last 5 or 6 years, and shows no signs of coming back. And they've financed a lot of all that real estate with local government debt, and their local government debt is enormous. And when you put the local government debt together with the federal debt and throw in a couple other debt numbers, consumer numbers, it's worse than the United States, and their ability to sustain debt is worse than ours. So they've got that problem, and then they've got a population problem where that one-child policy worked, which means they don't have any kids, and they valued boys over girls, and so they lots of girl abortions back in the day, I guess. That's what they did. But anyway, they've got a massive imbalance in their population, and it's scheduled to start shrinking, or projected to start shrinking in the next 20, 30 years, which is not the way you think of China from the old days, about being this endless source of people, and that's not true. And then the other thing that's happening is the workforce is aging, and they've got a lot more people to support on pensions than they can possibly do, and so they've got that problem hanging, and that's just the first sort of top 2 or 3 on the list of horribles they've got to deal with.
So that leads me to the next question. We haven't seen Xi. There was the military purge, and it seems like the current batch of Communist Party leaders is a bit shaky. Is there a, let's just say, next generation which is looking to seize some power along the way? And again, we're speculating here, but could there be maybe some components of the Communist Party looking to seize control here and squeeze out some longtime leaders, maybe try to make a few changes? And I'm not saying positive ones, but I'm saying changes that, I guess they're trying to make China great again, if you will.
Well, they've got what do they call them? The term wolf warriors. And so, with all regime change, you got to be a little worried that you might get the wrong side of the change. We tend to think of regime change as we'll get somebody kinder and gentler. We could get somebody a lot worse. And, human nature being what it is, you got to believe the younger cohort, the next generation, they've got people in there plotting, what happens next. But in terms of putting your finger on something really tangible, factual, that we know for sure, we just don't. Somebody somewhere knows, but not many of us here in the United States.
Bill Walton's with me here, and so is Cousin Vinny on Wake Up Patriots. By the way, insider myself, I was trying to type this, but it's hard for me to type and talk at the same time because I can't do the same. It's finally walking and chewing gum at the same time. That's even harder. But I want to say thank you for that really kind comment of you. Of course, my favorite guy, Tony, will be back in tomorrow. By the way, but here we go. I do want to throw a couple of things out here that many of you may have heard Bill Walton on television or on the radio before. We'd love to have you back and talk about this and some other issues as well. But I got to ask you actually produced a movie with Jerry Lewis?
I did. Yeah. Wow. It was Jerry Lewis's last movie. We produced it, 2012, I think, 2013, and movie was called Max Rose, and it was a story of an aging musician who never really quite made it in the big time, and he discovers something where he thinks his wife may have had an affair with another guy 50 years earlier. At this point, he's 80 years old, and it's a bit of a melodrama. We I learned a lot about producing movies from that. And there's something called Final Cut, and we made the film, and I didn't like it. It was just not really an uplifting story. And we got these interviews with Jerry, and we recut it. So we had interviews with Jerry on the set that had him talking about his career and his character and things like that. And we redid the opening with scenes from Dean Lewis and Jerry in 1957. I thought it would be go viral. But anyway, my partner, an Irishman, didn't like that version, and so he took it all out. So we've got a good movie. It's on every streaming channel there is. It was great working with Jerry. He was incredibly vital. The only thing about the movie, it was about old people, and most of our actors were in their 80s. And so we had to have nap runs on the set. You couldn't do much shooting in the afternoon.
It's like me, Vinny. That's like me and Vinny here. We're doing this in the morning because we're early birds. We have to go to bed and so
We do it early. Nice and early. The earlier the better.
Early to bed, early to rise. You'll miss all the good TV shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But we had Mort Saul in the movie, and Claire Bloom, and a lot of people that people of our generation might recognize. It's quite a famous cast, and it's really a good movie. It just I like all producers, I thought it could have been better.
Oh, I'm sure.
How was it working with Jerry Lewis? I mean, was he like strict?
He was okay. He was in point of life where he was a nice guy. I mean, he went through a lot of things with drugs, and he was a really difficult guy to work with when he was in his prime. But by the time he got around to us, he was just occasionally cranky, but generally willing to work out. I mean, I remember we had the first meeting with him. My first meeting was he lived in Las Vegas and loved the old mafia haunts in Las Vegas, and he had a Italian restaurant that he liked to go to, and they had a back room, and all the producers, we gathered together to meet Jerry. And he came in, he was wearing his red sweater, and he was pretty lively, and we started talking. There were about 7 or 8 of us, and exchanging stories, and he sort of got the hint that some of us were worried that whether he was up to the task of making another movie. And so what did he do? He started telling a joke, and then next thing you know, he's standing on his chair telling the joke, and this guy's 80 years old or older, and then he gets on the table and starts dancing around on the table, and we're all up there like this.
See, this is the cool guy I'd like to work with.
It was great. I mean, it was sort of a big FU for those of us that were doubters. And and as it turns out, he was great through the whole movie. He had a lot of stamina, and it was good to work with. But he didn't like to spend any of his own money. I mean, the producers had to cough up with all of that, so we just grinned and bore it, and it was a good experience. Oh, I highly recommend it for entertainment value. Trying to produce a feature film, it's a once in a lifetime kind of deal.
Vinny, if you produce a feature film, I'd like at least one cameo in it to play a radio guy, so I can look like Ted Baxter. Good morning, good night, and good news. Or better yet, I'm going to do my favorite. I'm Gary Owens, and this is Laughing. I was a big Gary Owens guy. And my other favorite voice guy was oh my gosh, the guy that did Match Game. Yeah, and all the game shows. That's right. I loved all those guys. Bill, I also want to, I love doing the prep for this show because when Tony says, Chris, I can't do the show today, I do even more. So I go down a few rabbit holes. I like your Substack, and since we have a few minutes left, I just want to highlight one article you had. And I know the Inflation Enhancement Act from the Biden administration is old, but I want to take this from December of 2024. The Art of Political Deception, masters from history who would admire the Inflation Reduction Act. I'm going to, by extension, admire the way the media works today and admire the way the Democrat Party has manipulated a lot of that and the public over the years via, well, let's just say a team effort. You go to some great figures in history, and I'm impressed with your knowledge of this and everything here. Augustus Caesar would have loved the Inflation Enhancement Act. Same with Cardinal Richelieu. And read about this guy. All right, just do that. Peter Metternich. Okay, yes, that makes sense because he built some kind of crazy system there. But I also understand that Vladimir Lenin. I'm going to say Stalin. I'm going to add him to that as well. But your points are here. Oh, Woodrow Wilson. That's right. I forgot about that. And here's one thing Woodrow Wilson and the Biden administration had in common. They both told when their president was infirmed or cognitively unable to perform the duties of a president, when the vice president knocked on the door and said, "I'm here to help out," they said, "Go away, go home, only show up for photo ops." The common thread was what brought this all together. The Biden administration of mishmashy wokies that controlled the auto pen and these historical figures. They used crisis rhetoric to justify massive changes. By the way, let's go Xi Jinping here too, and the CCP. Create complex systems of dependency to prevent reform. And they have people get upset and take to the streets when somebody actually pulls that. Maintain democratic appearances while centralizing control, which was done especially under the pretty package of Obama. Use technical complexity to obscure fundamental changes, label initiatives as solving the problems, but they're the ones who made them worse or even caused them.
Well, the one point there that bears on what we just saw with the big, beautiful bill is that it create dependencies, get people dependent on you as the provider of all things good. And what the problem the Republicans had was that there's a lot in the bill that we wanted to cut, but it was pork going back to districts and states, and so they wouldn't toe the line on that. And so we've got a lot, and that's true for both parties and all the states and everything. And so the problem we've got with cutting stuff right now is we've got so many constituencies that are counting that have gotten used to getting that money. You know, remember ethanol, when they put that in place, all of a sudden Iowa farmers became big government Democrats. And then, the same things happen with the green energy, with wind and solar, and a lot of they're smart enough with the Inflation Reduction Act to put a lot of those new facilities that were financed into red states. And so they built a red state constituency for some of those bad ideas. So you go to history, go to look at these mastermind guys on how they controlled, pulled the strings, controlled the masses. And, the history books are right there as a manual for how to do it.
And Bill, we only have a couple minutes left, and I would really love to have you back and talk about the demise of the dollar at this point. And Bill, by the way,
it's worth 98 cents. It's lost 98 cents of its value since we created the Federal Reserve. So
absolutely,
let's start with that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and only just a moment ago, it was 3%. It was 3% of the value. Now it's about 2%. This is
right.
It's just going to get worse and worse. We could go the way of Zimbabwe or the Italian lira if that's the case.
Well,
but Bill Walton, again, former chairman, by the way, and CEO of Allied Capital Corporation during the really, really good years, especially. So we're going to have you talk about that. Bill, though, where can our listeners, our viewers, our patriots catch the Bill Walton show?
Pretty much where you found me on Substack. It's interesting you pulled up a written piece. I've been doing a show as well, and I put it on pause for 2 or 3 months to see if I could do some writing in addition. And it's hard to write. I may go back to doing a show. Anyway, you can find me on all the platforms: YouTube, Rumble, Spotify. Any place you find your podcast, we're on all those platforms, and plus Substack, and we're easy to find. And the thing about the library, we've got about 250 shows in there, and some of the ones that we did them mostly for evergreen, so you could go back and listen to something. Maybe we did something a couple of years ago, and it still got it still has relevance.
Vinny, Bill, thank you very much for being with me.
Great talking with you.
We're doing this again, Bill. I'd love to have you on. Vinny, you got to do this with us too.
We'll Yeah, you didn't talk much, Vinny. I need to get
Yeah.
you.
No, I was listening to you. I was listening to you.
We left Vinny speechless with all the Mam Dammy talk. So
Yeah, that guy gets to me. He gets to me.
no, Vinny, did you know that you can't get the feel of what the people think unless you eat rice with your hands?
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that.
I'm not going to try it.
That's a Mam Dammyism.
I'm not going to try it.
Yeah, the guy says, look, the worst thing about Mam Dammy eating with his hands outside in the city, it's not that he did a third world practice or ate with his hands.
Yeah.
It's the fact that his hands were probably all over the dirty subway or something like that, and doorknobs on the way in without washing them. He's eating rice, and that's from.
Sometime we can talk about left hand versus right hand, and the Arabs will only eat with their right hand because you don't want to know what they do with their left hand.
Oh, hey-o. I'm usually a sidekick here, so I get to say hey. Patriots, thank you for being with us today. This is Wake Up Patriots. Tony's back with me tomorrow, and we have a very special guest I cannot disclose yet for Wednesday, but it's going to be a good one.